just $8.99. Come get a taste of our new bold flavor.
It's the greatest earthbound adventure ever documented on television as OLN presents Global Extremes Mount Everest, a 5-month journey through Earth's most extreme and exotic locales, culminating in a historic live broadcast from Mount Everest. Watch it on OLN and Comcast Cable, then go online with Comcast high-speed internet and get the total Global Extremes experience with updates, overviews, athlete bios, and more. Get the speed you'll need for OLNTV.com. Log on today.
Thinking about buying a dish. Well, this is what can happen when it rains. This is what can happen when it snows. This is what can happen when the wind blows too hard. Sometimes this is what can happen for what seems like no reason at all. Get the picture? Satellite TV isn't all it's dished up to be.
It's the ultimate dating nightmare. He swore he'd never hook up with a girl like her.
Dude, she's awful.
And she'd never be caught dead with a pig like him.
He's nasty.
It's amazing how quickly 8 to 10 drinks will change their minds. This summer, it's the new dating show that proves standards go down as the blood alcohol level goes up. You choose the victims, we buy the drinks, they get it on. While You Were Drunk, the most intoxicating reality series ever.
And now, a message from the President of the United States.
Good evening. I come before you tonight not to talk about the important business of running the country, but rather to specifically address this huge document.
And next, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our next speaker. He is the head of our state. He is the #1 fan. He is the #1 fan when they play any team in the Big East. And I mean any team. And he is our governor. Please welcome the Honorable John Rowland.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Thank you. My job this evening is to introduce the only man of the hour here with us this evening. When Gino got off the plane last night, I looked at him and I waved over to see a crowd of about 500 people standing in the cold and the rain and the sleet. And I said, Gino, what does it feel like to have the most loyal, most enthusiastic supporters and fans across the entire United States of America? And that's what you all are. The most loyal, most enthusiastic fans anyone could have. Now, I would like to leave you with one little secret that Chris Daly and I have figured out about Gino. And I love to tease Gino. You know all the faces that he makes with Pat Summitt and all the gestures and all the nonsense that's been going on for all these years. It's all a front. Gino has a little bit of a soft spot in his heart for Pat Summitt. I think he has a crush on her. Gino, to you and to your wonderful coaching staff and you wonderful athletes, this has been a long, cold winter. And your play and what you've done this year has warmed the hearts and the souls of everyone across this state. God bless you all. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the #1 women's basketball coach in the United States of America, today and forever, our beloved Gino Auriemma.
Hey. All right. Usually when we come out here, it's really cold and bad weather, so I always say stop. But since it's not so nice, keep going. Go ahead. I'm only kidding. Hey, I don't know why everybody is making a big deal about the weather and how bad it was this winter. You know, here's the way here's the way I talk about it with recruits. In Connecticut, 8 months of the year, it's absolutely beautiful and spectacular. The other 4 months, it's basketball season. And the guy with the sign back there, listen, I don't want any more calls from the church next door. Put that sign away. And if that wasn't bad enough, I got a lot of bad letters from my mother saying, he better put that sign away. All right. I know that there's been a lot of talk about what we did this season and about how we overcame a lot of things, and everybody talked about last year's team being so talented and so unbelievably skilled, and that what we did last year, even though it was a great accomplishment, it wasn't totally unexpected. And I understand that. And then when this year's group came along, and as it played out towards the end of the season and what we've done the last 2 weeks, there's been a lot of talk about the lack of talent compared to last season's team. And I think that's a disservice. I think that's a disservice to these kids. There's been an awful lot said about how talented the other teams were and how inexperienced we were. But you know, it's just like a woman out there to interrupt me while I'm talking. As if I don't get enough of that at practice. So when we think back to this year's team, let's not think in terms of whatever talent we didn't have, whatever inexperience we didn't have, whatever lack of depth or anything you want to talk about that we didn't have. I think as we look back to the season, for all the young people out there and for anybody else who's going through any difficulty in this time, just think back to what you saw this past weekend. It doesn't matter about what you don't have. What's most important is what you do have. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't thank a couple people before I finish up with this team. When we flew in yesterday afternoon, I want to give a big thank you to the state police, the Yukon police, and the fire department, and everybody that was out there. The people from the Department of Transportation, I think they all deserve a big, huge hand. These wonderful kids up here that nobody can see. The cheerleaders, stand up for a second. Come on. And you know, all you guys that used to make fun of the guys in the band, well, guess what? They had free tickets this weekend and you didn't. And they were unbelievable. And before we go any further, there's no parade this year. And I think that's, no. Don't boo that. Don't boo that. There shouldn't be a parade this year. There should be this, because there's other things going on, and I'm not sure we need to have a parade yet until these people behind me right here, until all their friends come home. When all their colleagues and some of your relatives and friends and neighbors, when they come home, then we'll have a real parade. In the meantime, I don't want, all right. take a break. Take a break. Get some decaf in your system. One of the things that I don't want to do is I don't want to stand here and predict that we're going to win it again next year. Because last time I did that, we lost. So it's best that I don't say anything about next season. All I want us to do is understand that all these kids are going to be back next season, but they're all going to be a little bit, they're all going to be a little bit different. They'll all be a little bit older. We'll have some seniors that'll be going off to the rest of their lives. Our freshmen will be sophomores. Our sophomores will be juniors. We'll bring in 3 more freshmen. But the one thing that will be constant is when we start practice next October 12th, we're still going to have the same goals in mind. We want to play hard. We want to play smart. We want to have fun. And we want to put ourselves in position to win a championship. And hopefully, if we stay healthy, we'll take another run at it like we did this year. Thank you all very much for coming out.
Coach, if you can come back up here with the governor and the lieutenant governor, they have a special presentation to make.
Oh, boy.
Hey, to all the state troopers out there, I promise I won't be in the HOV lane anymore when I don't belong there.
Before we say goodnight, we have one more thing that we have to present to the crowd, and I would like the tournament's most outstanding player. Can you go back there and get something? There's something that we didn't bring out here that we should bring out. The trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, what no one else in the country has, the national championship trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for attending. We thank you for your support all season long. Go out and enjoy the evening in Hartford, and the coach says, but if we come back next year in April, nobody will complain. Good night, everyone.
Jody, did I tell you that Coach Gino Auriemma would be full of words today?
Not a loss for words.
In true form is Gino Auriemma, who, by the way, has already started coaching for next year, talking about how these players knew that they had what it took to get to the championship, and we shouldn't shortchange them. He's already coaching for next year.
That's his job as a coach. What an amazing day for these ladies.
That's going to do it from out here at the state capitol. For Jody, I'm Noah Finns, and Keith, let's send it back to you in the studio.
All right, guys, great event up there at the Capitol.
All right, we're going to send you back now. In progress, World News Tonight. Good night, everybody.
In Iraq, 15 are listed as prisoners of war or missing. 30 British soldiers have died. Today, the first burial at Arlington National Cemetery. Captain Russell Riptoe was killed when a car bomb exploded at a checkpoint he was manning. He was 27. There is simply no reliable, serious, authoritative estimate of Iraqi casualties, but they are, I think we all know now, in the thousands. When we come back, Iraqi Americans celebrate and worry after the fall of Baghdad. And in the other news tonight, we'll take a closer look at the race to stop the SARS virus. And at the end of the broadcast tonight, the portraits of war.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by H&R Block.
I wanted to know.
I had H&R Block double-check last year's tax return. Free.
More than 500,000 people have taken the free double-check challenge at H&R Block. Those that overpaid got an average of $1,300 more.
They found over $2,000 my CPA missed.
I got $1,000. It's my money. I want it back.
It's your turn. See if we can help you get more back. Take the free H&R Block double-check challenge.
Tough heartburn? Try Extra Strength Mylanta. Nothing's faster or more soothing than Extra Strength Mylanta, the liquidator.
Great skin after 50? I won't let go.
L'Oreal introduces a skincare innovation, New Age Perfect with collagen boost technology.
Because mature skin needs more than ordinary moisture.
L'Oreal Age Perfect anti-sagging and ultra-hydrating treatment strengthens skin's network as it deeply hydrates. It does it all.
And I feel 10 years younger.
New Age Perfect with collagen boost, the ultra-hydrating and anti-sagging treatment, only from L'Oreal Paris.
Because you're worth it.
I'm up, but this arthritis pain.
The moment of choice, Tylenol or Advil? What do you take for arthritis pain?
Advil's the choice for me.
Truth is, only Advil liquid gels give you advanced liquid-filled capsules. Can't get that from Tylenol. Advil liquid gels rush long-lasting relief where you need it, and it's gentle on your stomach. For fast relief, advance to Advil.
I wanted to know.
I had H&R Block double-check last year's tax return. Free.
They found over $2,000 my CPA missed.
I got $1,000. It's my money. I want it back.
It's your turn. Take the free H&R Block double-check challenge.
In the Detroit suburbs tonight, the large Iraqi-American community is following events with great attention, obviously. Many of these people in Dearborn, Michigan, fled Saddam Hussein's Iraq many years ago. They are celebrating, but they also have a message for the Bush administration. ABC's Dean Reynolds is there.
Nowadays, a bright Iraqi future is coming into view on the streets of Dearborn, Michigan. Here on Warren Avenue, in a converted dance hall, Imam Husham al-Husseini has a vision.
We got rid of one dictator in Iraq. Let's carry on.
It would be an understatement to say people in this neighborhood are happy Saddam is finished.
See, he did for me.
Really?
Yeah.
In Basra?
In Basra.
Imam Husseini, who fled Baghdad 25 years ago and left behind a brother in prison, is in the middle of these emotions.
Today is the day to bring Iraq back.
The Imam will soon be heading back to Iraq as a member of an interim authority designed to help rule the country, democratically, he insists.
We need democracy. We need it in the Arabic world. We need it all around the world.
Imam Husseini says future U.S. Middle East policy should concentrate on dealing with nations instead of autocratic rulers. And he believes that would send a strong signal to Iraq's Arab neighbors.
No doubt some of Arab dictators are going to be scared. They might be scared, but they need to be scared.
And while there is gratitude among Iraqis here for America's help, it only goes so far.
Be careful to capture the hearts of the Iraqis before you capture the land of Iraq.
It is vital, he says, that the next few weeks be handled with sensitivity and more.
We need to be careful to treat this nation with wisdom and patience.
Words from Michigan, special delivery for the Middle East. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Dearborn, Michigan.
A couple of other items overseas today. In southern Russia, 28 children died in a fire at a school for the deaf, and 100 other students and faculty were injured. Officials say that many of the students died because they couldn't hear rescuers trying to save them. The latest casualty of the struggling airline industry is the Concorde. British Airways and Air France now say they will stop flying the supersonic passenger jet later this year. There is too little demand and the planes are too expensive to fly. When we come back this evening, the search for a SARS vaccine. We'll take a closer look.
See it build. See it transform. If you have an idea, a plan, a dream, see it with CIT.
I got a $50 bid. Can I get a 55? Who'll give me 55? Come on, I'll give you 55. I got a 55.
Could Procrit be right for you? Talk to your doctor about Procrit or call 1-800-PROCRIT.
The Spring Savings Spectacular is going on now for a limited time at your hometown Brand Source store. Shop today and save on a great selection of name brand home electronics. The experts at Brand Source will help you make the right choice. For the best service, selection, and value, go to the source. The Spring Savings Spectacular is happening now at Brand Source. Visit brandsource.com for the store location nearest you.
Brand Source, your neighborhood expert.
If you go into Hidden Valley today, you're in for a big surprise. Easy Squeeze Ranch, the same creamy, fresh taste you love on salads, made easy to squeeze on other stuff too. Easy Squeeze from Hidden Valley.
In the future, everyone's glasses will automatically adjust to changing light and block out harmful UV rays that can damage the eyes. But for those with transitions lenses, the future is already here. Ask your eye care professional, because the danger is real now, and so is the protection. Transitions, right in any light.
About 4 years ago, my doctor said that Zocor was right for me. And since then, I've stuck with it. Ask your doctor if Zocor could work for you. Zocor, be there.
How do you invest to help secure your future? You start with your dreams. And Edward Jones.
My life, my world, it all begins with a dream.
Edward Jones.
Oh, hold on, Sparky. My back is aching.
My shoulder is sore.
When you need relief, try Bayer Back and Body. It's Bayer aspirin plus a special pain relief enhancer to work effectively at the site of tough pain. Bayer Back and Body. Get moving again, pain-free.
Tomorrow, the latest on the fierce fighting still facing our troops. Plus, who has a right to your medical information? Patient privacy rules are about to change. Watch World News Tonight.
It has been almost a month now since international health officials alerted the world about SARS. They're still not completely sure what causes this flu-like disease or how to treat it. SARS, as we've reported, has infected thousands of people in 18 countries. More than 100 people have died, and there are more than 160 probable cases in this country. The race is obviously on for a medical breakthrough. So ABC's Lisa Stark takes a closer look.
As SARS cases continue to increase, the U.S. government has told scientists to make finding a vaccine a priority. Researchers believe they have isolated the virus that causes SARS. At the National Institutes of Health, they are growing it.
The first hump, the first roadblock, the first obstacle in the development of a vaccine has really been overcome because the virus itself is readily available.
Scientists hope to have a vaccine ready for human testing in just over a year. But in 1984, one government official predicted an AIDS vaccine within 2 years. There still isn't one.
There are so many steps in the development of a vaccine that you can never give a guarantee that you're going to be successful.
Also critical, the government soon hopes to have a diagnostic test for SARS to help keep track of how many people really have the disease.
At the same time, government scientists are looking for treatments, beginning to test some 2,000 already existing drugs. So far, nothing promising. Drug companies are scrambling to offer medicines they hope might work.
If, in fact, a SARS pandemic is what is developing, then it will add urgency to research all over the world.
But one infectious disease specialist is not optimistic.
I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I don't have the greatest belief or faith at this point in time that we have an easily available agent that will be able to treat SARS.
For now, the best hope in stopping the spread of SARS is an old-fashioned treatment, isolating anyone who has the disease. Lisa Stark, ABC News, Washington.
Next on the broadcast this evening, the Portraits of War.
Chilly nights at the firehouse mean heartburn and gas. These don't relieve both, but new Gas X with Malox does. In new soft gels that combine the heartburn relief of Malox with the power of Gas X. New Gas X with Malox soft gels beats the burn and the bloat fast.
This is Alan. He has cancer. This is Sarah. They've been together 46 years.
Way to go, sweetheart. Now go get it.
This is the number they called when he was diagnosed, so they could get answers to their questions.
Kiss that ball.
So they could get through this together. This is the American Cancer Society. This is who to call for help.
I love you.
Its patented formula knocks out weeds in 24 hours. The leading imitator doesn't. Roundup Fast Act Foam knocks out weeds in 24 hours.
You see an energy crisis crippling a city. At Franklin Templeton Investments, we saw a chance to uncover value in a troubled utility through the hands-on approach of our Mutual Series fund managers. Generating returns for shareholders in situations like this requires a unique perspective, the kind that has made Mutual Series a leader in value investing. Franklin Templeton Investments. Gain from our perspective.
Mr. Goodwrench, who is this one and only GM expert? I gotta find this guy. You're Mr. Goodwrench.
Yep.
Which means you use genuine GM parts.
Well, actually, we all do.
Now you're just trying to throw me. Mr. Goodwrench had over 1 million hours of GM training last year?
That's right.
Doesn't leave much time for Mrs. Goodwrench now, does it?
Find Mr. Goodwrench at over 7,000 GM dealerships nationwide.
If Mr. Goodwrench were a tool, what kind of tool would he be?
A wrench?
Oh, sorry. Miter saw is what we were looking for. Miter saw.
Introducing a new overnight laxative, Freelax. These have stimulants that can jolt your system and cause cramps.
Freelax is different.
It's stimulant-free and cramp-free. It's new, different, it's Freelax.
It works overnight and no cramps. Freelax.
Sunday, a rich man's son is kidnapped.
This kidnapping could be political.
And ransom is due.
$10 million.
But that's just the beginning.
The kidnapper gets the wrong boy.
So who was kidnapped and why?
You can't afford to lie about anything.
Detective Friday must risk his own life to find out before it's too late.
I'm begging you, please.
A new Dragnet following Alias, ABC Sunday, 10/9 Central.
Tomorrow, the family of American POW Shoshana Johnson speaks out. Now that Baghdad has fallen, what's being done to find their daughter? An emotional Good Morning America interview tomorrow.
Finally this evening, a reminder from the picture file. Palm Sunday is this weekend, and these Marines do not know what Sunday will bring, so they took the time to mark it now. Baghdad, I want to go this way. No, you go this way. There is looting everywhere. Today at the home of Saddam Hussein's private secretary, who's gone. He got this from a bank, just like Willie Sutton, taking back from the state on the border with Jordan. The war is over for him, but he's alive. It will take a long time to know how many Iraqis have died. And finally, taps for an Army Ranger, the first from this war, to be buried at Arlington. That is our report on World News Tonight. There'll be more on the war later this evening on Nightline and tomorrow on Good Morning America. I'm Peter Jennings. Have a good evening and good night.
more and more Americans getting their nightly news from ABC's World News Tonight? Peter Jennings, one of the most measured and methodical news authorities in the business. He's outstanding on his feet. Peter Jennings, he's earned the trust of American viewers. Peter Jennings, no wonder millions of Americans are turning to ABC's World News Tonight. Tonight, a twisted love and murder triangle so big and brash, it had to happen in Texas. Two women accused of being lovers and accused of murdering her husband. But why was this Texas millionaire really murdered? Tonight, ER's a repeat. Primetime's all new.
Good Morning Connecticut starts at 5 a.m. Friday.
Feel like a movie? We'll check out what's new at theaters this weekend.
And it looks like this weekend's got a hot streak in it. We'll talk about it all Friday morning at 5. We'll see you then.
Dinner's here.
Now Domino's delivers the excitement of NASCAR. And for more excitement, get 2 medium one-topping pizzas with Domino's Dots for only $13.99.
Guys.
Get the door. It's the official pizza of NASCAR.
I'm on a mission to rid the world of bathroom scales.
I have come this morning to trade you this box of Goleen Crunch cereal for your bathroom scale.
No, thank you.
The scale is like a false idol.
You don't need to diet. You just need to eat right. It's got lots of protein and it's high in fiber.
This is great. That's good.
When they give up their scale,
She's done with the scale. This is yours.
it's a tremendous liberation.
He's feeling my scale.
Just leave the box here by the door. You can enjoy it later.
I'm so proud of you.
Don't diet.
Their weapons, put on civilian clothing, and are now heading to Kurdish territory in huge numbers. It stretches way over the hills, and this has just come up in the last half hour or so. The road filling all the time as I'm talking to you. Some of them are bandaged hands I can see, a few with bandaged heads in the foreground just passing me here. But really the sight of these men walking along hot tarmac because the heat's rising here in their bare feet. And some of them have told me they've been walking for hours. Some have said they've even come from much further afield and have been walking for days. But this concentration of Iraq's army, I've just not seen anything like this before. Aaron.
Let me ask you a couple of quick questions, and we'll see if General Clark has some. Is it just soldiers, or is there any armor there, any tanks, any artillery, anything like that?
No, these are beaten, defeated people. But even though they're beaten and defeated in the military sense, Aaron, these soldiers look pretty pleased with themselves. They're walking along unarmed. I don't see anybody organizing anything. They're in one huge line of people, several abreast, taking up half of the carriageway. No weapons, no panic. Half military clothing, half civilian. Really, no women, all men. Aaron.
And again, quickly though, you may have just answered it. It does seem to be organized as opposed to disorganized.
Oh yes, they're following a line. They're just following in a if you like, a hypnotic walk towards this Kurdish liberated area. No panic, no real organization, just a drift of this shattered army heading away from where they were holding their former positions.
And do we know where their former positions were?
Well, certainly around Kirkuk. Some of them were telling me they were part of the division that was responsible in the defense of Kirkuk and other northern towns. Mosul, we understand, is falling or has fallen, and that these men would have been stationed in positions around these northern areas. The backbone of that army was shattered some 36 hours ago, and this is the remnants of it. But we haven't seen the army, the former army like this. You know, we've reports of them being melting away and disappearing. Well, these people are right in front of me now.
Brent, hang on. General Clark, we've walked through a few of our questions. You got any?
Well, yeah, a couple. First, is there anybody there from the Kurdish side or U.S. Special Forces welcoming these people in when they come to your lines, or have they not got to the lines yet?
Good point, General. Yeah, absolutely no Special Force presence here. I've been with Special Forces for the past few days, and it's my guess that they've gone straight for the cities. You know, we're between, if you can get the map out, we're pretty close to Kifri at a place called 75 kilometers south of Kifri, and, you know, it was formerly between the lines. You know, they're not coming across Kurdish Peshmerga fighters. There's nobody organizing them. I don't see any visible weapons, you know, but these are, you know, soldiers who say they are giving up the fight, where they're going. They don't seem to have any idea. But, you know, what I think is building in front of me here is obviously a problem. Who precisely are these people? Are there Saddam Fedayeen mixed with them? Are there Ba'ath parties mixed with them? Are these just foot soldiers? I mean, you can't tell. They're dressed in a variety of clothing, and who knows what's going to happen to them, and who's going to be responsible for them.
Well, Brent, do you say that you don't see any vehicles there at all, so there's no water trucks or anything else, and these guys have basically stripped out of their boots, they've stripped out of their canteens and so forth? If that's the case, and there's no logistics there, and this terrain is relatively arid, and there are no water sources available, you're right. I mean, they're going to have a big problem before the end of the day.
Yeah, just to add to that, we've just had some more information talking to them. This is just unfolding right in front of our eyes here. We just bumped into this huge group of ex-soldiers, and they're telling us here on the ground that they gave their weapons to Peshmerga fighters who liberated towns like Kirkuk and other cities, and that the Peshmerga had allowed them to leave their former locations, providing they left equipment behind, which presumably explains why so many of them are walking in bare feet. They must have had to leave their boots behind, not carrying any weapons and no vehicles. They're just on foot, telling us they're happy to be leaving.
Brent, are they right there right now in front of you? Are you able to walk over to them right now and ask and interview them right now?
Aaron, we're just getting the live satellite truck set up here to bring you this live in the next few minutes.
All right,
I can't actually do that.
Okay.
I've got runners talking to people and coming back with information, so fire any questions you may have at me.
Okay, here's, it'll just be a statement. Set your live shot up. As soon as you get it, we'll take it, and we'll take a look at what you have just been describing as thousands and thousands of Iraqi soldiers in civilian clothes mostly, making their way away from a war, even if they are unsure where they are heading to. Brent, thank you, and we'll talk to you again in a couple minutes, I guess. Thank you very much. For those of you who just may be joining us, that is a significant development because it's going on in the northern part of the country, and there is a sense that if this thing is going to end badly, if you will, it will end in a battle in Tikrit in the north. This doesn't answer that question, certainly. It is just a sign of the state of play of what's left of the army, the Iraqi army. Here's a quick look at some of the other events that made the day.
Day 2 of American control of Baghdad was both dangerous and deadly. Fire and the smoke from explosions were common. There was cheering on the streets, but not everyone, it was clear, was happy to see the Americans. Said a spokesman for Central Command, Baghdad is still an ugly place.
A man strapped with explosive approached a Marine checkpoint and detonated himself.
There was a suicide bombing at an American checkpoint. At least 4 Marines seriously wounded. Heavy fighting too at a mosque in the middle of the city. 1 confirmed Marine death, nearly 24 hurt. Overnight, a barrage of fire from Marines manning a different checkpoint. These pictures from Australian broadcasting. The Marines, some of them tense and edgy and understandably confused, have orders to fire on anything that does not stop when ordered.
We expected all the dirty tricks we've seen. I mean, we see schools full of explosives. We've had women and children pushed out in front of gunmen. You know, they've basically done everything they could to incite.
By far, the biggest strategic gains were in the north. Kurdish rebels, accompanied by American special forces, took effective control of Kirkuk, the oil capital in the north. Cheering on the streets there as well, as Kurdish rebels pumped round after round of machine gun fire into images of Saddam Hussein. Another statue destroyed as well.
The Iraqis owned it when we went to bed last night. They do not own it anymore. The regime doesn't own it. The Iraqi people own it now.
In Najaf, site of an important Shiite mosque, a high-ranking cleric was killed. a returning exile. It was apparently a factional dispute that became deadly at one of the holiest places in Shiite Islam, the shrine of Imam Ali. To the south of Baghdad, as elements of the 101st Airborne drove closer to the city, there were some huge explosions only a few hundred yards from the GIs. You could see an Apache helicopter hovering overhead, the explosions coming from an abandoned Iraqi ammunition depot. Far to the west of Baghdad, the army took over another Iraqi town where villagers led them to an abandoned Al-Masoud missile, still sitting there in a large warehouse. Stacks and stacks of weapons continue to be confiscated here in a southern Iraqi city, and here the first glimpse of Saddam Hussein's battered yacht, just barely afloat. All across the country, looting continues to be a major problem. People could be seen with armloads, even truckloads of goods. Back in Baghdad, looters even entered the home of one of the most visible and important Iraqi government leaders, Tariq Aziz. He had left behind a home of elegance, now abandoned. And about that American flag that ever so briefly covered the face of Saddam Hussein on that statue in Baghdad yesterday, orders went out that any display of American flags, any display, on statues, on vehicles, on buildings, on command posts, is now forbidden. A reminder, this is the Middle East.
That's the big picture. Tonight we'll focus now on one of the pieces that make it up, the humanitarian situation in Baghdad. One UN aid group surveying the conditions there described it this way. The picture is a very dark one. Another aid group reported that even a hospital had been looted and stripped bare. Clearly, it was a day where euphoria made its way to reality. More on what's going on in the city from CNN's Martin Savage, who moved into the city with the Marines, but is unembedded, I assume, now. Marty, good to see you.
That's correct, Aaron. Good morning to you. And another day has begun here in Baghdad just after 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's looking like a beautiful day, at least when you look at the sky. However, there is still very much a troubling cloud that hangs over this city and hangs over much of the nation. Last night at the checkpoint behind us here outside of the Palestine Hotel, where much of the international media is now gathered, there were shots that were fired at the Marines here. These were sort of pot shots that seemed to be coming from a northerly direction. They would come on a semi-regular basis in clusters of 1, 2, and 3 shots at a time. Only occasionally would the Marines fire back. The Marines say that they described it as sort of a probing fire or also a testing in the metal of the Marines themselves. The Marines say they had no problem with it, and of course nobody was injured. But it does point out to that sense of lawlessness that hangs over Baghdad despite the huge military presence on the part of coalition forces that now exist inside of the city. You already pointed out the issue of looting. A lot of looting still going on, although you begin to wonder how much more there is to loot, simply how much more is there to take. There are some comical scenes that you see that come out of some of this looting. Walt Rogers said he reported seeing someone stealing a horse. And then yesterday around the city we saw a very small car, but that had 2 huge urns in the back, or giant vases that almost looked like something from the Ming Dynasty. They obviously had come from some sort of regal residence. What the person driving that vehicle was going to do with 2 things so outlandish as those is unclear. It may be that they were taken simply because they could be taken. Another problem for military forces here is, of course, the tremendous amount of weaponry that remains all around Baghdad. Mortars, bombs, RPGs, rockets of all sorts, and tons of ammunition. Literally, you can find it lying in the streets. This is a real hazard, of course, and potentially could be used by anyone that wants to do harm against the U.S. forces. Disposing of it has begun, but it's very haphazard. Usually towards late afternoon, you begin to hear the loud, thunderous booms indicating that it is being blown up, but they have so much that they are literally overwhelmed in trying to get rid of it all. Aaron?
Well, how long have you been unembedded, as it were? When did you leave your group?
We left our group about, I would say, 18 hours ago, so it was about midday yesterday.
And they were in the city at that point?
Yes, yeah, they had been in the city for about 3 days. We had the day before yesterday, that firefight as we moved into the center of Baghdad, around Baghdad University. They actually set up camp at that university. And then yesterday morning, we went on a tour of the region that the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines now find under their control. That included one presidential palace of Saddam Hussein and also that residence of Tariq Aziz. After we did that tour of the rich and famous, you might call it, here in Iraq. We then left. They brought us right here to the Palestine Hotel, wanted to make sure we made it safe, and we went our separate ways.
Just take a moment and talk about this group of Marines you traveled with for the last 3 weeks, your impressions of them, the impressions that they had of the country, of the mission. Just take a minute and use it as you want. You've had an extraordinary experience with these men. Tell us about it.
Well, it was an experience, or at least the temperament of the men that we were with, and they were all men, there were no women that were in this particular unit, changes quite a bit. You had the beginning, before the conflict actually began. We were embedded with them 1 week before. And there is that sense of nervousness, and yet that also sense of bravado. This is what they've been training for. This is the moment that they are going to be tested. This was something that they were worried about, fearful about, but very much looking forward to. Then the conflict begins. I think deep in their hearts, many of these Marines thought that it would be a cakewalk, that things would fold and end rapidly. From the first night on, they realized it was exactly the opposite. The Iraqi forces were preparing to fight and did offer a fight. Then the attitude became one of anger. You saw the men changing, the sort of a feeling that it's us against them, and everyone being Iraqi is out to get them, and thereby they are going to show them, and they will take the fight to them. A very aggressive posture, sometimes ugly language being used. Then as the mission progressed, when they actually came through firefights, their confidence was built. They began to know that their training was relied upon, that they could take gunfire and return much more, that they could survive, and that they could compete and take on any army elements that Iraq had to offer. So you saw a change of attitude there. And then once the drive to Baghdad literally began, the morale skyrocketed, confidence was high, and driving into the city itself, I think these are the moments that these young Marines are going to take with them, the joyous scenes they saw, people waving. I don't believe that there has been a modern military in recent time that has seen the sort of celebration, the jubilation, and the real joy that appeared to be on the faces of many Iraqis that these young Marines saw. So rather than the memories of the fight, it is more so the memories of the friendly smiles that will probably be carried farthest in their hearts.
Outside of the airport. He has not been heard from since Tuesday, but has been consistently front and center. And recently, consistently wrong.
Many didn't know how to read Sahaf other than as a source of amusement. A lot of talk and little follow-through.
He's hard to take seriously, but I've dealt with him for years, and this is a guy who can be deadly serious.
CNN's chief news executive, Eason Jordan, has known Sahaf for years, and now that the regime has fallen, can reveal just how deadly serious Saddam's spokesman can be.
Well, I had a meeting in December with Minister Sahaf, and during that meeting I asked for his permission to send a CNN team to northern Iraq, which is actually Kurd-controlled territory. When I asked him this question, he bristled and he said, Mr. Jordan, if you send a CNN team there, the severest possible consequences will come to them. When I said, what does that mean? He just snapped back. He said, don't you understand the severest possible consequences? And to me it was clear he was talking about assassinating those journalists.
There's evidence the Iraqi regime may indeed have tried to follow through on these threats. CNN obtained these videotaped confessions from Kurdish authorities. The Kurds say these men were assigned the job of attacking the CNN compound in Erbil, northern Iraq.
Mohammed, Colonel Ahmad, and Major Ankham. They trained me on military intelligence. Then Staff Brigadier Mohammed asked me to blow up Al Haman Hotel. He said that they are Americans and Israelis. According to Mohammed, they have come under the cover of CNN. They're all working for America and Israel intelligence. We want to make jihad operation. He said to me that you should contact with some persons. Sabah had a plan to blow up Al Haman Hotel. I asked him, what do you have in Al Haman? As I know, there is a staff of CNN satellite TV in Al Haman. He said, no, they are from the CIA, working under cover of CNN. I asked him, what do you want from me? What is your plan? He said, our plan is to attack them, or frighten them, or take them as hostages. This is to tell the Americans that if they attack Iraq, they will have losses. They should pay for their attack.
Fortunately for the members of the CNN crew reporting from northern Iraq, the alleged plot was foiled when these men were arrested. The Kurdish authorities say the men were preparing to attack the CNN compound with nearly a ton of explosives. Now, Brent Sadler is a name and a face with which our audience should be quite familiar. We've seen Brent throughout this entire conflict as well as other stories in the past, and Brent is in northern Iraq. Brent is the one who actually did come up with these tapes of these confessions here, and Brent's joining us right now on the telephone. And Brent, as I understand it, you were one of the journalists who's basically would be walking around with a bullseye on your back, correct?
That's right, Leon, absolutely. We were the team that was targeted. I've been, for the past many, many months, building up our operations here in northern Iraq to cover the war, to cover the conflict, which is now coming to an end. We were aware many, many times of deep Kurdish concerns about our safety. And to correspond with those concerns, we went to extraordinary security precautions in terms of sandbagging, round-the-clock guards, to try and make sure that we had a good chance of withstanding such an attack. I did see these tapes. I was given access to them several weeks ago, and it was 500 kilos, 1,000 pounds of TNT was targeted to be used in a machine gun and rocket-propelled grenade attack. It was aimed at blowing us up. If not blowing us up, then either taking some of us hostage, killing the others, if you go through all these tapes, and possibly to make it look like an Islamic extremist operation, a fundamentalist operation. This was a detailed plot to take CNN and our reporting ability off the map in northern Iraq in crucial build-up months to the war. What makes it even worse, like Ethan Jordan, our chief news executive, I know many of these officials personally myself. Mohammed Saeed al-Sahaf I know personally, many of the Iraqi senior levels for many, many years. And to have this information that they were plotting with agents on the ground to blow us up, to kill us, is obviously very chilling and has put tremendous stress under all our team members working under extremely difficult conditions and under duress during these critical weeks and months. Leon.
Brent, real quickly, did you ever find out who gave the order to actually put this plan into effect? Did this order come from Saddam Hussein himself? Did it come from the information minister, Mohammed Saeed Sahaf? And how close did it actually come to being pulled off, do you know?
I think if you put the pieces together, the confessions of those agents who, at the end of those tapes, if you saw them in their entirety, apologized for the deeds they would have done against us. These are people acting under duress from the old Iraqi regime. I can't say whether Sahaf, the information minister, gave the order. I doubt it, because he wasn't a military man. He was an information man, a propaganda man. We're talking here about the very core of the old regime, the intelligence services, at the very heart of that dark regime, which would get involved in all sorts of acts against its own citizens, to repress, to keep them from speaking their thoughts, their minds. The whole game from Iraq's point of view was to keep Western media out of the north, to keep CNN in particular out of the north in the weeks to build up, the months to build up of the war, and I'm sure that would have come from the very highest level of the old Iraqi regime, Leon.
Well, Brent, I speak for everyone in this room, everyone in this building, everyone in this organization, without a shadow of a doubt, that we're glad this plan had no chance of being pulled off, and that you and your colleagues were able to pull off what you did pull off in your coverage in northern Iraq. All the best to you, Brent. Thanks much. We'll check back with you later on. Bring in now Darren Kagan standing by in Kuwait City. Absolutely incredible stuff. And Darren, I'm not sure if you had a chance to check out the New York Times op-ed page today. Ethan Jordan, our senior news executive here, included some more information that he has been unable to even talk about over the years about some of the things the regime there was responsible for, in addition to this threat on our reporters' lives.
Absolutely incredible. Some of the secrets that even we who are working at CNN didn't know. And Leon, sometime when you're in the same city as Brent, buy him a beer and get him to tell you the story of what they did when they went in during those months anyway. Some of those stories floating around here of our Kuwait bureau here in CNN. Absolutely incredible. Not just Brent, but the other members of our CNN crew. that went with him. That's going to do it for me here in Kuwait City for today. I'm going to step out. Leon Wolf Blitzer is going to step in, but you and I understand we're on duty over the weekend, so I will see you tomorrow, my friend, from here in Kuwait City.
Good deal. You got it, partner. We'll see you tomorrow morning. You get some rest tonight, okay? All right. Moving on here. Remembering the fallen, the difficult task of consoling families of those who will not return home.
I hope to be able to provide for my little girl and give her the life that her daddy would have given her, because it's going to be a struggle now, because our American dream that we had is now no longer. It's one person short.
While other mortgage companies are still filling out the paperwork, Ditech.com is busy processing your loan. Apply now for a low fixed-rate mortgage or cash out some of your equity. It's a whole new way to get a mortgage. Just log on or call 1-800-71-FIXED. Ditech.com, your mortgage solution delivered.
Last night, I watched my daughter sleeping, smelling of soap and tangle-free shampoo, and suddenly the responsibility of preparing that little human being for the world was overwhelming. I'm 36 and single, and I'm strong. That's why I'm here.
If you're searching for something to believe in, for your children to believe in, our hearts, our minds, and our doors are always open. The people of the United Methodist Church.
CNN takes you into the whole story.
But how much fighting still remains? And is Saddam himself dead or alive?
No one gets you closer than CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Daring rituals, bizarre customs, and ancient beliefs. Beginning April 13th, brace yourself for an exotic adventure on the National Geographic Channel's Culture Shock Week. Then visit us online for a shockingly rich experience. Best explored with cable-powered internet, fast, easy, and always on. Culture Shock Week, an adventure online and on TV.
If you experience trauma, women and men age 18 to 55 are invited to participate in a VA research study about the way that traumatic events change the way the stress hormone system functions. Subjects with post-traumatic stress disorder who are not on psychiatric medications and healthy control subjects with no medical or psychiatric problems will be needed. You will be paid up to $540. If you have a trauma history, a comprehensive evaluation for post-traumatic stress disorder is included. If you are interested, please call today.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
You know, from a military point of view, the coalition victory was swift and decisive. But for more than 100 families in the United States, it comes far too late and at a horrible personal cost. Those families lost loved ones and gained a tragic perspective on an American dream won and lost. CNN's Brian Cabell has one young widow's story.
In a home outside Camp Lejeune, the home of a Marine who died fighting in Iraq, his widow, only 32, reads one of the last letters he sent to their 2-year-old daughter.
Are you taking good care of Mommy? How is she doing? I know you're doing your best to help her with everything. Please give her a big hug and kiss from me and tell her that I love her, okay? I love you very, very much, and I miss you so much. My heart hurts. And I hope I get home to you and Mommy soon. And don't forget me. Love always, Daddy. And he wrote it on the back of his favorite MREs because they love peaches.
Daddy was First Lieutenant Fred Picorni, killed almost 3 weeks ago in an ambush in An-Naziriyah. And now his wife Shelley has photographs, letters, memories, and the secure knowledge in her mind that his cause, the cause to free the Iraqi people from Saddam Hussein, has almost triumphed.
I hope they can have what they, hopefully a democracy or whatever they're reaching for, freedom from any turmoil and the pain and the suffering they were going through. I am pleased to see when they take them food and water and medicine, because that's what we should do. We should reach out to each other always. It doesn't matter who we are or what. I would hope that they can find good things out of this.
That's a little difficult for Shelley at this point. A picture-perfect life with a tall, handsome, loving husband who was also a doting father has been turned upside down.
I hope to be able to provide for my little girl and give her the life that her daddy would have given her, because it's going to be a struggle now, because our American dream that we had is now no longer. it's one person short.
Last hearing.
Listen to the newscasts.
It is an orderly process, and the forces that are entering are being welcomed by the people.
And you'll hear plenty of officials, reporters, and armchair generals applauding the war effort. Its efficiency, its quickness, its relatively few casualties. That's a comforting analysis for most Americans, but not for a woman who yearns for her husband.
His big arms wrapped around me. And just smelling him, just anything, you know, it's the simple things that you're going to miss, that they're never going to be there again. And I'll always be looking over my shoulder to see if he's there.
Fred Picorni will be buried Monday at Arlington National Cemetery. Brian Cabell, CNN, Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
You need to manage your business anytime, anywhere. Gateway's new business notebooks featuring Intel Centrino mobile technology help you stay productive with wireless connectivity. Plus the freedom of having up to 8 hours of battery life. Now get 0% business financing for 24 months when you purchase Gateway 450E Series business notebooks. Gateway, business, government, education. Gateway 450 notebooks feature Intel Centrino mobile technology.
It's hard enough rushing through a stressful world during your waking hours. So why add to that stress in bed, tossing and turning on an uncomfortable metal spring mattress? You deserve a good night's sleep. And that's just what you'll get with the Tempur-Pedic Swedish Sleep System, the only mattress that uses the gravity-defying Tempur material originally developed by NASA. Instead of uncomfortable metal springs, the Tempur-Pedic mattress uses billions of viscoelastic memory cells. This soft yet supportive material automatically adjusts to every curve of your body, providing a weightless-like sleep surface that you have to feel to believe.
It feels like it's actually forming its own glove to me.
I can't really find an uncomfortable position.
It's like nothing I've ever felt before in a mattress.
Now you can feel it for yourself. Call and we'll rush you a free sample of the revolutionary Tempur material, along with this video and information kit. You'll learn how metal springs create pressure points that cause you to toss and turn. Tempur-Pedic reduces pressure points so you can get a better night's sleep.
The Tempur-Pedic mattress is unique in that it is firm, but yet it molds to your body, thus relieving those pressure points and allowing you to get a much better night's sleep.
First night was amazing. The second night, I woke up the next morning, no back pain. And I've always had back pain. I was sold after 2 nights.
And because Tempur-Pedic doesn't transfer motion, you'll never disturb your partner. Look how this glass of red wine doesn't tip over, even when she jumps up and down. Try that with a metal spring mattress. Don't be fooled by imitators. Only the Tempur-Pedic mattress uses the revolutionary Tempur material originally developed by NASA. Tempur-Pedic, changing the way the world sleeps.
Call 1-800-215-3500 for your free video, information kit, and free sample of the revolutionary Tempur material. Call now.
You're looking at live pictures of Baghdad. There's a fire. We don't know precisely where this fire originated, why this place is on fire. Could be the result of looting, could be some sort of oil fire, but it's another sign that the situation in the Iraqi capital is far from normal right now, despite the collapse of Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party and the Republican Guard in Baghdad. It's just after 12 noon on the East Coast, just after 9 a.m. on the West Coast, and it's just after 8 p.m. in Iraq. You're looking at these pictures today. It's Friday, April 11th. You're watching CNN's live coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Good afternoon to our viewers in North America. Good evening from here in the Persian Gulf. I'm Wolf Blitzer reporting tonight live from Kuwait City. Along with me, CNN's Leon Harris with a quick look at what's happening at this hour right now. Leon?
Thank you, Wolf. Yes, we're keeping our eye on that fire that is burning there in Baghdad. Thanks to those, our friends at Abu Dhabi TV for providing these pictures. We still, as Wolf says, do not know exactly the source of this. We'll keep our eye on that and keep our ears open for any more information on that. But our top of the report here is stateside. President Bush is going to be awarding Purple Hearts today to some of the U.S. troops wounded in Iraq. The President and First Lady will visit several soldiers, sailors, and Marines at 2 D.C. area hospitals. We'll also get the latest White House assessment of the war in Iraq this hour. A news briefing is scheduled to begin at 12:15, about 12 to 13 minutes from now, and we'll have that for you live right here, so stay with us. Now, news this hour from the war on terrorism. Authorities in Yemen are searching for 10 of the main suspects in the bombing of the USS Cole. They escaped from prison today. This story was first reported by the Associated Press and confirmed to CNN by Yemeni government sources. The October 2000 attack on the Cole killed 17 sailors and wounded 39. U.S. Marines in Baghdad say a sense of lawlessness still hangs over that Iraqi capital, and they report taking pot shots today from forces loyal to the crumbling Iraqi regime. And they also say the looting continues. The Marines are working now to disarm the city of massive amounts of weapons and ammunition. Residents of Mosul in northern Iraq take to the streets after the head of Iraqi's army there formally surrenders. U.S. Central Command says the Iraq 5th Corps, once estimated to be 20 to 30,000 strong, is now out of the fight. Besides the celebrations, our Jane Araf says there was looting in Mosul, as there has been in other cities in Iraq. British forces trying to encourage a return to everyday life in Basra there in the south of Iraq. They're urging citizens to go back to work. All of this is an effort to get the city back up and running again. The British military spokesman says that he hopes Iraqis realize that they have a part in rebuilding their country. Now, let's go back to Wolf Blitzer and our continuing coverage of the war in Iraq. Wolf?
Thanks very much, Leon. And we're going to continue to show our viewers this fire that's burning in Baghdad, in the Iraqi capital. We don't know the cause of this fire. It looks like it could be the result of some looting, could be the result of some sort of oil burning, but we're going to continue to show this live picture underscoring the serious dangers that still exist in Baghdad right now, despite the collapse of Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party, his Republican Guard, Special Republican Guard, the security services, effectively all elements of the Iraqi government no longer in business, at least not in Baghdad. The U.S. military trying to organize some semblance of organization in the Iraqi capital as well as elsewhere in Iraq. As U.S. and coalition forces advance more and more into Iraqi cities, the pressure to bring about law and order increases. And as we said in Baghdad, what's been described as a sense of lawlessness still clearly hangs over the entire city. U.S. forces are discovering more hidden dangers as well. CNN's Walter Rogers begins our coverage from the Iraqi capital this hour. Walter?
Hello, Wolf. A short while ago, the International Committee of the Red Cross issued a statement saying, quote, "We are profoundly alarmed at the chaos we are seeing in this city. There has been a total collapse of the hospital structure in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. We understand, according to an ICRC spokesman, that only one hospital is up and operating at this time because of looting. That one hospital is only operating because there are coalition tanks, U.S. Army and Marine tanks around the hospital protecting it. Otherwise, every other hospital in the city of Baghdad, according to an ICRC spokesman, refuses to open. Each of the hospitals has been looted. When I asked why, I was told that the looting is the result of the Iraqis figuring that with the government gone, they can take whatever they want from the government now. What we have been told, however, is that most doctors and nurses simply are too terrified to go to work at this point. The Iraqis have already looted their national museum. They have looted the national treasury, the national bank. There have been fires set in those buildings. There have been big black plumes of smoke burning all over town, fires set by the looters. Earlier in the day, I talked to Colonel Stephen Hummer, 7th U.S. Marine Regimental Unit here doing duty, asked him what the Marines could do about this. What he said was, well, we cannot shoot the looters and we don't have enough Marines on the streets to put down the looting as it is. His best hope was meetings he had with the Iraqi civic officials.
We can stop the looting, and that's by our sheer presence. Again, we don't have enough Marines right now to cover every building, every storefront. So we're trying to maintain certain areas, hospitals, key infrastructure areas, certain government buildings, things like that.
Colonel Hummer did say that he thought perhaps some order might be restored in the city within the next 24 hours. He has called on Iraqi police, Iraqi firemen, sanitation workers to report back to work. There have been meetings with the U.S. military here and the Iraqi civilian infrastructure, again trying to restore some order, but that order is not here yet. Wolf?
Walter, I take it as we look at this fire that's burning in at least part of the Iraqi capital, the result presumably of more looting today, having been Friday in the Muslim world, the holy day, of course, the day of rest, that apparently didn't have much of an impact on the looting that's going on, the chaos developing in Baghdad.
Wolf, the ICRC spokesman, International Committee of the Red Cross, told me the people of Baghdad now feel that anything that belonged to the government is theirs, and they have a perfect right to loot it. That is what we're seeing. Again, the ICRC said that there is alarming chaos in the city, and the Red Cross is calling on the coalition forces to restore order. Of course, you heard Colonel Hummer say that restoration of order is simply impossible. Remember, these U.S. soldiers and Marines who are here are combat trained. They are not police officers. They came here to fight their way in to topple a regime. It's a little difficult to figure out what to do next, and I saw within the last 3 hours a man walk right past me brazenly with a hospital operating table on wheels. Just walk right past me, and there was another fellow pushing another piece of hospital equipment. Anything of value, they're stealing and trying to sell. Wolf?
And Walter, they're just simply going into the banks, the national banks, and stealing the money, the gold, the jewelry, the valuables as well?
And the National Museum, Wolf. There are going to be some very fine Iraqi, that is Babylonian, antiques on the markets in Europe in the not too distant future, because that's one of the priceless commodities that you get when civil order breaks down. We saw it in Afghanistan. National treasures of Iraq are soon going to be on the antique sales, antique counters in Europe. Wolf?
Walter, finally, before I let you go, I'm getting a lot of email from our viewers around the world wondering what it's like, the security for our correspondents, including yourself, on the streets of Baghdad. What's the situation on that front?
There are areas in Baghdad not far from where I'm standing which are free fire zones. Baghdad remains extraordinarily dangerous once you get outside U.S. Marine or U.S. Army pockets of control. It was so serious, Wolf, that within the last hour and a half we had to move our camera position off the street at a traffic circle, because once the U.S. Marines pulled their tanks out of there to reduce their profile and increase their security position, we could no longer stand on the street. So we've literally pulled back to a hotel rooftop because it isn't safe to stand on the streets. We were quite concerned of perhaps a suicide bombing or someone riding by and shooting us. Wolf?
All right, Walter Rogers, our man on the scene, as usual, reporting live from Baghdad. Walter, be careful over there. Tell all of our colleagues to be careful as well, please. Meanwhile, Iraqi troops gave up the fight in Mosul today. With that, Saddam Hussein's tribal home, Tikrit, is the last urban area that remains an all-out war zone. CNN's Jane Araf is in Mosul. She's joining me now live. Jane, what's the latest from there?
Wolf, we've actually left Mosul just before sundown, which seemed like a wise thing to do. And as we were leaving, we saw groups of Peshmerga, the Kurdish fighters, leaving as well. Now, the Iraqi forces have pulled out, indeed, so suddenly it seems that they have left nothing there in their place. In more than 7 hours in that city, we didn't see a single U.S. soldier, and we drove around the city looking for them. We saw only a handful of Kurdish soldiers, and everyone we spoke to said, "Where are the American soldiers?" Now, we know there were small groups of special forces in there, along with the Peshmerga, the Kurdish fighters, but generally they were leaving people alone. They were nowhere to be seen, and there was from early morning an absolute frenzy of looting. Now, we've heard about looting in other cities across Iraq, and there wasn't much different in this except for the scale. Now, Mosul is one of the biggest cities in Iraq, and it has a lot of government buildings. Almost every one of those government buildings, Wolf, was either set on fire or still had people streaming into it hour after hour, carrying away anything they could find: food, building materials, parts of the building itself. Even the presidential palace wasn't immune. People broke in and essentially tore down anything they could. One of the most amazing scenes, the Iraqi Central Bank in the middle of Mosul, where some of the money no longer used was set on fire while people tried to stream inside the building to carry out armloads of Iraqi dinars, not worth very much to us, but they said they have nothing. They said the government had left them with nothing. Saddam Hussein had ruined their lives, some of them, and the least they deserved was whatever money they could carry off. Wolf?
All right, Jane Araf, she's in the northern part of Iraq, where the looting continues there as well. We'll continue to check back with you, Jane. Thanks very much. Meanwhile, there was a significant declaration earlier today from the White House on the demise of the Iraqi leadership. And now officials are taking steps to crack down on the chaos gripping much of the country. Our senior White House correspondent, John King, joins us now live with details. John?
Wolf, it's pretty obvious if you look at those pictures of the looting and the
armed, wearing civilian clothes, many of them barefoot, walking south toward Baghdad, about 100 miles distance. Brent Sadler talked with some of the men who said they're going home.
Unarmed soldiers from Saddam Hussein's defeated army on the move in northern Iraq. They are mostly Muslim Shiite troops heading home, walking to southern Iraq. A journey of around 100 miles, perhaps 7 days by foot. Feet that are cracked and blistered, boots missing, and there's a long way to go. But these men don't complain about the hardships of a grueling journey. Rather, they seem thankful to be still alive after years of military service with infantry units filled with unwilling conscripts. Life under Saddam Hussein's iron fist rule, they told me, was a life of hell.
Try and translate at the same time.
Really, for 2 months, we haven't eaten anything because of our situations, and the clothes we got, these are our clothes. We have brought them with us when we attended our regiment in the mountains, and. Really, we were in bad situations, so we decided to escape and surrender.
And they explained they had been forced to fight at gunpoint.
Many punishments. One of them is to cut the hair completely, and to cut the eyebrows also. And if you not fight for Saddam Hussein, your punishment will be execution.
They claimed their commanders abandoned them days ago, but not before seizing their identification papers, so they couldn't travel, forced to hold their frontline positions. Cannon fodder for an officer corps that ran away. This was an uncontrolled and unsupervised exodus from areas recently liberated by Iraqi Kurds. Their weapons and much of their military clothing was left with the Kurds, and they seemed to pose no obvious security threat here. No American military presence on this road, and little Kurdish interest in their former enemy, drifting south on a long walk to freedom. Brent Sadler, CNN, near Kifri, northern Iraq.
In Iraq, as in Kansas, there is no place like home. We'll be back in a minute.
And continuing coverage of the war in Iraq. Hundreds of Iraqi troops lay down their arms and head for home. At 6, a special look at SARS. What do we know about the devastating disease? What's being done to control it? A doctor leading the struggle against the outbreak and quarantined after treating a victim joins Lou Dobbs. Stay with CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Other mortgage companies are still filling out the paperwork. Ditech.com is busy processing your loan. Apply now for a low fixed-rate mortgage or cash out some of your equity. It's a whole new way to get a mortgage. Just log on or call 1-800-71-FIXED. Ditech.com, your mortgage solution delivered.
Disciplined investing. It's not about following the crowd. At T. Rowe Price, our independent research means we're not deceived by every market ripple, and we don't chase every fad. Over 70% of our mutual funds beat their 3, 5, and 10-year Lipper averages. We have the experience to know what works, and the insight to find real opportunity. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
It's easy to take electricity for granted. A lot of us aren't even sure where it comes from. So we're sometimes surprised to learn that over half of the electricity we use comes from coal.
Mrs. Windler!
And thanks to a $50 billion investment in clean coal technologies by America's electric utilities that use coal, It's getting cleaner every day, helping us protect something we can't take for granted. Our environment.
I've always talked fast. Ooh, give me 55, come on, give me 55, I got 125, give me 125, come on, I'm 220. But the chemo slowed me right down. For the first time in 30 years, I was too tired to work. Time to go, Charlie.
Are you or someone you love about to start chemotherapy? Call this number now to receive important information about Procrit. Procrit is for chemotherapy-related anemia in patients with most kinds of cancer. Procrit helps rebuild red blood cells lost during chemotherapy, and more red blood cells can mean more strength. Call now for helpful information on how to manage chemo side effects and how to find out if you could be anemic. Procrit is proven and safe. In studies, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. So talk to your doctor.
Okay, folks, I'm back.
Call now and learn how Procrit can help you get back the strength you need. Your strength for living.
Yeah, I got 2 speeds, fast and faster.
Closed captioning provided by Jennifer Convertibles.
From Jennifer Convertibles, a designer sofa bed for just $2.99. With a Jennifer sofa bed, there's always a place to stay.
No, not everybody in Washington is completely focused on the war in Iraq. Congress, for instance, has been working very hard on tax cuts. We're going to bring in CNN's Jonathan Karl on Capitol Hill. I understand, Jonathan, they have also made a bit of news.
Yeah, a dramatic development on the tax cut here, Candy. What has happened is, for the past 2 days, Republicans have worked furiously to try to ensure that the Senate would pass one tax cut and the House would pass a larger tax cut, leaving the possibility of coming to an agreement down the road. What we have just learned is that a deal has been struck in the Senate that guarantees, or seems to guarantee, that no tax cut over $350 billion will pass the United States Senate. This is a blow both for the president, that was looking for a tax cut closer to $700 billion, and also for House Republicans, who thought they would have a chance to fight this battle in some weeks after the president would have some popularity following this war in Iraq. Announcing this deal on the Senate floor was Chuck Grassley, the very powerful chairman of the Finance Committee, who said he recognizes that some people will see this as a defeat for the president.
This is not about the president. This is not about the House of Representatives. This is not about the United States Senate. This is about our doing our job of governing.
Now, Candy, I just spoke with a senior Republican aide on the House side who said when Tom DeLay heard about this, his reaction was, quote, barely controlled fury. House Republicans thought they had a deal last night that, again, would allow them to fight this battle for a larger tax cut down the road. Candy?
So, Jonathan, where does this go next?
Well, this goes next to actually writing up that tax cut, to marking up that tax cut after this Congress returns from a 2-week recess, and we'll end up actually considering this closer to Memorial Day. But as they do that, they now have a very clearly defined parameter. The tax cut in the Senate cannot exceed $350 billion if Chuck Grassley does what he said, which is make an agreement of doing nothing more than $350 billion.
Thanks again, CNN correspondent Jonathan Karl up on Capitol Hill. We want to remind you again that at the top of the hour, we will go to Fort Bliss, Texas, where the base will be remembering fallen comrades of the 507th Maintenance Company. CNN will be back in a moment.
Let's say your sister lives in town, but your brother lives on the other side of the country. A phone call to your brother should cost the same as it does to your sister, don't you think? Well, it does now, because with the neighborhood, you get unlimited local and long distance for one low monthly price. Makes the whole country seem like a little neighborhood.
Call 1-800-JOIN-NCI today, the neighborhood, where local and long distance come together.
You know, we're never in the same place at the same time. No, not really. So we need a plan that allows us to talk, you know, as much as we want, all the time, whenever we want. And then no extra charge.
With Singular's Family Talk plan, call each other for free with unlimited mobile-to-mobile calling. Get 5,000 night and weekend minutes to share, up to 3 additional lines, and up to 4 free phones.
We call it the Conley Brothers. What's up? What's up? What's up plan?
Come in and find out how Singular fits you best.
If you want the benefits of refinancing, you have no choice but to stress over a long application, right? Wrong. AmeriQuest Mortgage gives you a choice and a personal loan advisor to handle just about everything. With 2 decades of experience, Ameriquest knows how to offer you the no-stress home loan. The time is right, so call Ameriquest now at 1-800-297-3260 or go to Ameriquest.com. Call Ameriquest, the company that knows you are more.
CNN Tonight, a special look at SARS, what we know about the devastating disease and what's being done to control it. Lou Dobbs Moneyline, 6 Eastern.
TBS brings you The Movie Break, an ultra-cool, cutting-edge, new kind of weekly entertainment show. All wrapped around your favorite films. Sizzling celebrities, red-hot gossip, the latest buzz. The Movie Break, Thursdays, 8 Eastern, only on TBS.
No wonder they call it the Superstation.
No wonder they call it the Superstation.
Daring rituals, bizarre customs, and ancient beliefs. Beginning April 13th, brace yourself for an exotic adventure on the National Geographic Channel's Culture Shock Week. Then visit us online for a shockingly rich experience. Best explored with cable-powered internet, fast, easy, and always on. Culture Shock Week, an adventure online and on TV.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
It's the news military families fear the most, word that their loved one has been killed. In this war, at least 138 families of coalition troops have received that word. CNN's Brian Cabell talked to one war widow from North Carolina's Camp Lejeune.
In a home outside Camp Lejeune, the home of a Marine who died fighting in Iraq, his widow, only 32, reads one of the last letters he sent to their 2-year-old daughter.
Are you taking good care of Mommy? How is she doing?
Many embargoes and wars which leave many scars on the sons of this civilization. But I see what you see on TV. My heart bleeds.
And the day in Iraq has been marked by chaos, confusion, and the demands on the coalition to restore some kind of order to the country. For the very latest on what's going on inside Iraq at this hour, we turn to our senior international correspondent, Nick Robertson. He's live in Baghdad. First of all, Nick, our national security correspondent, David Ensor, reporting tonight that for the first time, apparently, U.S. intelligence has picked up what they call chatter, intercepted communications from Iraqi officials suggesting that Saddam Hussein is actually dead. What do you make of that?
Well, it's very difficult to make a determination here in Iraq because it's very, very difficult to, obviously, to try and ascertain whether or not the Iraqi leader is alive and well. No one knows where he is, and rumors here do abound. I mean, there are rumors in this population of Baghdad that he is poised to make a comeback, that he has people out on the streets of Baghdad right now reconnoitering coalition forces to determine their strength and where best to hit them. Now, most people dispel such talk as mere rumor mongering, and it's bred out of the Iraqis' deep fear of the former president, Saddam Hussein. Fear because they know how he ruled the country. Hard for them to believe that he really may be gone. Certainly, it would aid the coalition at this time if they were able to back up and find proof to support this chatter that they're hearing. But we're likely, Wolf, to hear a number of rumors circulating about what may or may not be happening, the Iraqi leader, what may or may not be happening to that large circle of people around him. We're not talking just about his close family, but all the other leaders, Taha Yassin Ramadan, the vice president, Izzet Ibrahim, Ali Hassan al-Majid, who is believed to be dead, but still we don't have conclusive proof of that. So likely to be a number of rumors and reports, but obviously if it was, Wolf, it would be very significant, and it would certainly be a big factor in aiding Iraqis to get beyond his regime and begin to look forward now and have a degree more trust that the situation in the future will be stable and that there is no return of the former leader. Wolf?
Nick, I know it's probably quiet right now in the middle of the night over there, but are you bracing for more looting, more chaos tomorrow?
Wolf, I was driving back to this hotel at dusk at about 7:20, 7:30 this evening in Baghdad. It was absolutely chaotic. There was black smoke blowing through the air. There were fires at the side of the road. I saw a completely gutted and burnt down government supermarket. I was staggered to see it in such disarray, and that was destroyed by looting the day before. When day turned into night here, there was no evidence that the looting was about to let up. If there's any reason to suspect that the looting may abate a little, it would seem to be, one could only base it on the fact that there would be nothing else left to loot. I saw people out with weapons on their shoulders. One man had a rifle, one man had a pistol in his pocket to protect the goods that he'd been looting today. I saw 3 different banks on fire, huge plumes of smoke rising up from the city, and anybody stepping out into the road with a wheelbarrow or with a car at dusk was treated with huge suspicion by my driver, who is a local Iraqi driver. He was very concerned that some of the people coming out into the road would either try and stop us while we were driving along, or perhaps do something worse. So the situation as day turned to night today didn't really seem to be improving, and it is causing great concern for humanitarian officials here, because one of the targets today for the looting and the day before have been the hospitals in the city.
Nick, a quick question before I let you go. The Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld suggested it looks a lot worse on television, the images that we're projecting, that it probably is. Is the looting isolated to very small relative sections of Baghdad, or is it across the board throughout the city of some 5 million people?
Wolf, I suspect Mr. Rumsfeld may be correct in his analysis. What we see here in the city is widespread looting. What we are seeing here in these neighborhoods close to the center of Baghdad are the government offices, are the bigger shops, the bigger stores. But it is going on in some of the smaller neighborhoods. As we drove through yesterday, the stores, if you imagine your corner convenience store or wherever the local shops to you might be, in those areas of Baghdad, those stores are becoming the targets. Not only the stores, but industrial complexes. We saw huge lathes being driven away on big trucks. So while the looting may be specific to certain areas in downtown Baghdad, much of the downtown area, in some of the suburbs, the areas where there are perhaps factories or perhaps businesses or shops, even in the housing areas, in the residential areas, there's a huge level of anxiety that it could spread there and a level of unease, Wolf.
Nick Robertson, our man in Baghdad. Nick, please be careful over there, together with all of our colleagues from CNN and all of our journalistic friends in Baghdad. Nick Robertson doing an outstanding job for us. Paula, back to you.
He consistently does a good job, doesn't he? We end our Timelight with a look at the casualty figures from the war. As of today, the Pentagon reports 107 dead in the war, 95 by hostile action, 12 non-hostile. There are 399 wounded, 10 missing in action, 7 prisoners of war. The British say 31 of its forces have been killed, 9 hostile deaths, 20 non-hostile, 2 undetermined, an unknown number of missing, no reported prisoners. The U.S. military reports thousands of Iraqi military deaths, and Arabic language TV, quoting official Iraqi sources, report 1,252 civilians killed, 5,103 wounded. CENTCOM says there are more than 7,300 Iraqi POWs.
Paula, the top headlines for the half hour are coming up right after this break, but taking sides. The world community lined up for and against the war in Iraq. Where will those nations stand when the fighting ends? Stay with us.
Delivers expert Motorcraft brake service in 2 hours or less, like your participating Ford, Lincoln, or Mercury dealership. Or we'll give you a free oil change. Plus, enter to win trips to the Caribbean or to the world premiere of the hot new movie Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Nobody can do auto service like we
Are you paying too much for shipping? Priority Mail Service is dependable delivery starting at just $3.85. Maybe that's why we deliver more business packages than any two-day service. Priority Mail from the United States Postal Service.
The power of trust. America's most credible news source, year after year. The power of pictures. Images live the instant the story happens. The power of reporting. More bureaus than any U.S. television news organization. The power of CNN. The most trusted name in news.
Hello, I'm Frederica Whitfield with the headlines this hour. The war was fought to liberate Iraq, but could it force change in other Arab nations? More on that in the next half hour. First, a look at other stories making news. Word from the U.S. State Department today that the U.S. will pass on criticizing China's human rights record this year. State Department spokesman Richard Boucher says not sponsoring such a resolution is the best way to advance the cause of human rights with China's new government in Beijing. A major jailbreak in Yemen. Authorities say 10 suspected al-Qaeda terrorists, including the two chief suspects in the USS Cole bombing, escaped prison by breaking a window. It's unclear if the suspects got outside help. The bombing in 2000 killed 17 sailors and is blamed on al-Qaeda. In Atlanta, tightened security at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. It follows a bomb threat. It's unclear how it was delivered, but the CDC is taking no chances. It stepped up security around its campuses and closed the front entrance to the main building. More than 16 hours after a powerful blast ripped through a Louisville, Kentucky factory, one worker is still missing. The blast tore through a food additive manufacturing plant. It killed one worker and injured 4 others. People living nearby were forced to stay indoors after ammonia leaked from a tank. Those are the latest headlines. Now back to our coverage of the war in Iraq, live from the front lines.
The world's major powers at odds before the war.
When it comes to our security, we really don't need anybody's permission.
But now that Saddam's gone, who stands with America? So much at stake. Billions in oil, reconstruction, a foothold in the Persian Gulf.
That all the international community can work together toward reconstruction with respect to Iraq.
To 55 of Iraq's most wanted right now that the U.S. coalition has put out the lookout for. Well, one has actually turned himself in. General Amer Hammoudi al-Saadi, who is credited as being Saddam Hussein's top scientific advisor. You see him there. He has turned himself in, we understand. We're getting this news from ZDF, which is a German television network. He is credited, as we said, with being a top Iraqi science advisor to President Saddam Hussein. He is, if you've been keeping track of the list, number 55 on that list of top 55 of Iraq's most wanted. So stay with us, and we'll keep you updated on any other developments on this story. Heidi?
Meanwhile, Iraq's ambassador to the UN is on his way to Syria, hoping to learn about his family back in his homeland. Mohammed al-Duri was ambassador for just over 2 years and had the difficult assignment as Saddam Hussein's representative at the UN. Under UN rules, Saddam Hussein's government holds its seat until a new Iraqi government formally presents itself and is approved by the General Assembly.
All right, then we're going to have to apologize for that.
3 weeks of waiting and wondering the fate of 7 American POWs, 5 from the 507th Maintenance Company, and 2 Army Apache helicopter pilots were found alive today, and they were free.
So I told God, I said, Lord, let my Joseph come home in my birthday, or before my birthday, whatever it's going to be. I said, please, I said, you know, just let my Joseph home, you know, and I'm so glad. Sometimes God is full of surprise, I guess.
Sir, on behalf of the Secretary of Army, I want to let you know that your son has been...
I appreciate it.
It didn't matter if you were a parent, a loved one, or a 4-star general. Sunday was a good day.
I know they're in good shape, and I know they're in our hands and under our control now, and that's very good.
CNN's Bob Franken reported live with an exclusive on the scene as the 7 soldiers, 2 with apparent gunshot wounds, were airlifted out of the area.
They were being held somewhere north of Samarra in Iraq when the officers in the unit that was holding them captive deserted. The junior members of that unit decided to help them become free, so they escorted them until they ran into a Marine unit, an light armored unit that was going up the road, and turn them over.
All 7 have been released from a Kuwaiti hospital and, according to a spokesman, are on their way to Doha, Qatar.
I saw nothing that looked abnormal with any of them, and again, their spirits were great. They were just glad to be back sort of in American soil.
It didn't take long for former POW and fellow 507th Maintenance Company soldier, Private First Class Jessica Lynch, to get word of today's rescue. She continues her recovery at Walter Reed Hospital in the U.S., and her family issued this statement on her behalf. Our family joins America in rejoicing over the news and the safe return of 7 brave heroes to U.S. custody in Iraq. To the families of these great troops, we'd like to offer you our assurances that they will receive the best care imaginable.
Total abandonment. Absolutely incredible. This is quite remarkable revelations. It seems that Tikrit's armed forces, the so-called last stand, has simply gone away.
Other news Sunday, this time out of Tikrit, Saddam Hussein's hometown, the last city in Iraq not occupied by coalition forces. CNN's Brent Sadler made the long journey into Tikrit and offered this initial report.
The fact we're so close to Tikrit and we're seeing, destroyed or abandoned military equipment leads me to perhaps believe that Tikrit can't be that heavily defended. Okay, that's gunfire. Okay, we've just come under attack. Under attack.
It turned out to be a very dangerous journey. As Sadler and his team left Tikrit, they came under fire.
We're okay, we're okay.
U.S. Marines battled pockets of resistance by Saddam loyalists in Tikrit. Air support was sent in to help. In an interview earlier with CNN's Wolf Blitzer, General Tommy Franks said this about Tikrit.
I wouldn't say it's over, but I will say we have American forces in Tikrit right now.
And is there any resistance, organized military resistance?
When last I checked, this force was moving on Tikrit, and there was not any resistance.
A U.S. spokesman told embedded reporters Marines destroyed 5 manned tanks earlier on the outskirts of the town and engaged in a fierce firefight with an Iraqi infantry unit, killing at least 15. Back in Baghdad, the looting continued, and there was a late-night firefight outside the Palestine Hotel in the center of the city. But as CNN's Christian Amanpour reported, the fighting and the looting seems to be on a smaller scale. And U.S. troops have set up round-the-clock patrols with the help, it seems, of some Iraqis. New information released today about Saddam Hussein. No, he hasn't been found, but if killed, the U.S. says they'll be able to prove it because they have his DNA.
Do you have DNA of Saddam Hussein?
Oh, of course. Of course.
You do?
Of course.
And if Saddam is alive, there's a possibility that he and other high-ranking Iraqi leaders may be heading to Syria. Case in point, Saddam Hussein's half-brother. Pentagon officials announced today the arrest of Watban Ibrahim Hassan al-Tikriti as he tried to flee to Syria. It is a country the U.S. warns should not become a safe harbor for the Iraqi leadership.
Senior Iraqi people have been moving into Syria, and some staying and some transiting. We certainly are hopeful that Syria will not become a haven for war criminals or terrorists.
Sunday was a day where the war seemed closer to an end, but General Franks says he is not ready to claim victory just yet. There is still much more to do in Iraq, he says. Still 4 Americans missing. The war goes on. We cannot imagine having the duty of going to a home and telling a family that a soldier, their loved one, had been killed. We just saw the flip side of that today, the joy of telling a family that their son was alive and just fine. Thank you. The family of Ronald Young was ready for the good news. They had already seen it for themselves on TV. Here's Susan Candiotti.
You watch. There's a guy, that's him coming out of the helicopter. That's him right there.
Ronald Young's parents knew their son was free when they saw his picture on TV. Then the Army came to the door.
On behalf of the Secretary of the Army, I want you to know that your son has been...
Well, I appreciate it.
For 3 weeks, Ronald Young had been a prisoner somewhere inside Iraq. His mother could not believe how well he looked.
He looks good. I couldn't believe he's running.
Hey, I can't.
He got that big grin.
Well, look where he's at. I would be running too.
Young and fellow pilot David Williams were captured after their helicopter went down. Both were shown on TV. What will his father tell him when he gets back?
So proud of you, and I love you better than anything in the world, but don't scare me like that anymore.
Finally, a call from Ron in Kuwait.
Hey, Ron. Everybody's here.
Oh, my God.
I know it. How are you? Well, we're just having a party for you. Why aren't you here?
The call lasted 5 minutes.
I can't wait to hold you. When I see you, we're just going to sit and hug for about 30 minutes.
When Ron Young's father began talking, his mother's emotions took hold. Young said he lost weight, at least 20 pounds as a POW, but didn't reveal much more about his captivity.
I asked him how he was treated, and he said that he was treated well the last 2 or 3 days. They met up with some people that treated him good, but he said in the beginning it wasn't too great.
More details about that captivity will emerge eventually. For now, the Young family is looking forward to a reunion with their son in Washington before the week is out. Susan Candiotti, CNN, Lithia Springs, Georgia.
And what a reunion that will be. In a way, soldiers have two families, really. Their original families back home and the new families with whom they serve. We've touched on how happy those back home have been to hear about the freedom of the 7 Americans who are no longer prisoners of war. This story is about the great happiness of the second larger family, at least a couple of them. Carl Penhall reports.
In the desert of central Iraq, comrades from 1st Attack Helicopter Battalion cheer the news that 2 of their own have been found. That Apache helicopter pilots Dave Williams and Ron Young are free.
I think we've been on an emotional roller coaster. I mean, we've been, ever since we heard that they captured some POWs, they got our POWs back. As soon as it was confirmed that it was Ron and Dave, we got Ron and Dave back, and then they're healthy. And I'm telling you, I don't think there was a dry in there in the tent.
Williams and Young's aircraft was shot down early March 24th in the first battle of the war against Iraqi Republican Guard forces around the cities of Kerbala and Al-Halal. McElroy and fellow pilot Fred Polidor whirled overhead and tried to save them. But heavy fire blasted their aircraft too, forcing them to turn back to base. Iraqi TV broadcast pictures of the downed Apache. Young and Williams, who's a specialist in survival and evasion, went on the run for more than 24 hours. But eventually Iraqi forces captured them. In the last few days, comrades from Charlie Company, nicknamed the Vampires, daubed the surviving helicopters with these somber POWs.